Binta was the most beautiful girl in her community. People said her smile could melt even a cold heart. Her skin was smooth like honey, and her eyes were bright like the morning sun. Many men wanted to marry her. Rich men, handsome men, men with cars and big houses. They all came, but Binta said no to them. Why? Because she was in love with only one person, Tundai. Tundai was not rich. He didn't have a car or a big house. He was an orphan and came from a very poor background. But Tundai was kind, gentle, hard-working, and very handsome. He was Binta's high school sweetheart. He worked so hard to sponsor himself through secondary school, and then opened a small tailoring shop because he couldn't afford to go to university. Still, people said his designs were the best in the whole community. Everyone wanted to wear clothes made by Tundai. Even though Binta was a university graduate and studied business administration, she still chose Tundai. She loved him truly and believed in their future. After their wedding, Binta looked for a job could not find. Tundai used his little savings to open a small provision store for Binta. They didn't have much, but they were happy. They laughed, prayed, and planned their future together. Soon, Binta got pregnant, and they had a beautiful baby girl with big brown eyes. They named her Mira. They were poor, but in love. They believed that as long as they had each other and kept praying, things would get better. Tundai worked hard to provide for his family the little way he could. One morning, as Binta was busy with the house chores, baby Mira was only 6 months old, and Binta had just given her a warm bath. Tundai had gone out to deliver a dress to a customer. He smiled at Binta before leaving and said, "I'll be back soon, my love." "I won't stay long at all," but he didn't come back. It was almost evening when a neighbor came running to their house shouting, "Binta! Binta! Come quick! Tundai had an accident with a car." Binta's heart stopped. Her hands began to shake. She tied Mira to her back and ran as fast as she could to the hospital. When she saw Tundai lying on the bed, her eyes filled with tears. He had cuts on his body. He looked weak and almost lifeless. The doctor came and said something Binta didn't want to hear. "The accident was very severe. He hurt his back. We don't know if he'll ever walk again." Binta covered her mouth and cried loudly. Her strong, hard-working husband, now in a wheelchair? How would they survive? Weeks passed. All their savings were used to pay hospital bills. Tundai could no longer work. He couldn't sew clothes. He couldn't even get up without help. Binta was now doing everything. She cleaned, cooked, took care of Mira, ran the shop, and helped Tundai dress up and use the toilet. Life became very hard. Sometimes they didn't even eat 2 meals a day. She managed to buy pap to feed their baby. But Binta kept saying, "It will get better. I just have to be strong." One hot afternoon, Binta was walking home from the market with a small nylon of pap in her hand. A shiny black car stopped beside her. A woman came down and shouted, "Binta? Is this you?" It was Amina, her old school friend. Binta couldn't believe her eyes. Amina looked rich. Her dress, shoes, and gold necklace sparkled under the sun. Binta felt small in her old faded dress and dusty slippers. Amina smiled and said, "Where are you heading to? Come, let me drop you off." Binta refused at first, but Amina insisted. Binta sat in Amina's shiny car, her heart beating fast. It felt cold inside the car, and soft music played. She looked at her feet. Her slippers were dusty. She quietly pulled them back. "You've changed, Amina," Binta said with a smile. "You look like a big madam." Amina laughed. "My dear, life has been good. I have my own business now. Big people come to buy from me. God has really helped me." Binta forced a smile, but her heart felt heavy. She thought about her life, her empty shop, her sick husband, and her baby girl who sometimes went to bed hungry. That night, Binta sat on her small bed and watched Tundai struggle to eat. He dropped the spoon twice. His hand was shaking. Binta rushed to feed him like a baby. Tundai looked at her with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, my love," he whispered. "This is not the life I wanted for you." Binta touched his face and smiled. "Don't say that. We made a promise to always be together no matter what." 2 weeks later, Amina came to visit her. This time she brought an invitation. My birthday party is this Saturday. Rich people will be there. Big men. Come, wear your best dress. There you can connect with influential people and they can help your husband with contracts. At first, Binta said no. Who will stay with Mira? Tundai can't even move on his own. But Amina begged. Just come for 2 hours. You might meet someone who can connect your husband to money. Please, Binta. Tundai heard and smiled. Go, my love. You never can tell where an opportunity will come for us to get out of poverty and help our family. So, on Saturday night, Binta wore her old but clean yellow dress. She dropped Mira off at the neighbor's house. She hugged her baby tight. Mummy will be back soon, she whispered. As she entered the party hall, music filled the air. Lights flashed everywhere. Women wore gold, diamonds, and long eyelashes. Binta felt like a poor stranger. Then Amina came and shouted, You came! She hugged her tight and pulled her to a group of smiling people. That was when Osus walked in, tall, light-skinned, and rich. He wore a shining navy blue suit, gold watch, and sweet perfume. He smiled at Binta like he had known her forever. You never told me you had such a beautiful friend, Osus said to Amina, his eyes locked on Binta. They all laughed. That night, Binta smiled more than she had in months. She laughed, she danced. She forgot just for a moment that her husband was in a wheelchair and her baby was waiting at home. That evening she enjoyed every conversation between her and Osus. They gist, laugh, and talk about their university days. And for a moment there it felt as if they were long-time friends and not strangers meeting for the first time. It was almost midnight when Binta realized that it was late, and her daughter was still with her neighbor, and Tundai would be worried about her. As she was about to leave, Osus offered to drop her home, but she refused. She quickly rushed out of the party that night. The next day, Binta was feeling very tired. Her little shop had very few things to sell because she didn't have money to buy new stocks. That afternoon, a big shiny car stopped right outside her shop. Out came Amina and Osus. Binta smiled and said, Welcome. Please come in. But Amina shook her head and said, We don't have much time. Osus insisted that I bring him to you. Osus looked around the small shop and laughed softly. No money to buy to stock up? He joked, making Binta feel a little embarrassed. They talked for a bit. Before they left, Osus surprised Binta. He sent 5 million naira to her bank account. Binta could not believe it. She stared at her phone, her heart pounding. This was more money than she had ever seen. She immediately rushed home to share the good news with Tundai. When she got home, she told Tundai. He smiled and said, God has sent you good friends. This will help us. Binta felt hope grow inside her. But little did she know, this gift was the start of a big change she never expected. Days after, Osus started visiting Binta more often. He came to her shop and sometimes to her home. Osus was always kind and caring. He listened to her problems. He even offered solutions and made her laugh when she felt sad. Binta liked how Osus paid attention to her. He told her many times, I have loved you since the day I first saw you. Hearing this made Binta feel special, like she mattered a lot to someone. But inside, she felt a little sad and guilty too. She was married to Tundai, her high school sweetheart, and they had a beautiful baby girl. One day, Amina, her friend, came to visit. She looked at Binta and said, Tundai cannot walk again. He will always need help. You are still young and beautiful. You don't have to suffer forever. Osus can give you a good life with everything you want. Binta listened carefully. Amina's words made her think hard. She remembered how things had been, since Tundai fell sick and helpless, how she had been the only one caring for their baby. Sometimes she wondered if she could be happy again. Slowly, the love she had for Tundai started to change. It was still there, but it felt smaller. Osus promised her many things: trips to far places, beautiful clothes, big houses, nice cars, and lots of money. Binta began to dream of a life where she didn't have to worry or be sad. Even though she loved Tundai, Binta started to believe that maybe this new life with Osus could be better. She felt torn inside, wanting to be a good wife and mother but also wanting to be happy and free. She wanted to be like those ladies she saw at the party. One quiet night, when Tundai and the baby were sleeping peacefully, Binta sat alone and thought deeply. She looked at their little daughter sleeping in her little bed on the floor and felt a tear fall down her cheek. But the pain in her heart was too much. She made a choice already. She packed a small bag with her clothes and left the house quietly. She said to herself, "I can't continue with this suffering." When Binta left that night, she felt a mix of fear and excitement. She was going to live with Osas in his big, beautiful house. The house had shiny floors, big windows, and many rooms filled with expensive things. It was a very different life from the small home she shared with Tundai and their baby. Osas treated Binta like a queen. He bought her pretty clothes, expensive jewelry, and took her to fancy restaurants and fun parties. Binta enjoyed the attention and the new things. For a while, she forgot about the pain and the hard days with Tundai. Osas smiled and said, "This is your home now. Anything you want, just ask." Months passed, and Binta's life changed completely. She now wore expensive clothes and high heels. Her hair was always well done, her nails painted. She went to parties, danced at clubs, and posted happy pictures online. People called her Madam and admired her beauty even more. Everywhere she went, she felt like the center of attention. Osas spoiled her. He bought her a new phone, gave her money, and provided anything she wanted even before she asked for it. Binta told herself she had made the right choice. "Suffering is not for me," she thought. "I deserve to enjoy life." But at night, when everything was quiet, Binta sometimes cried silently. She missed her little baby's soft fingers. She missed hearing her tiny giggles. And sometimes, just sometimes, she remembered Tundai's warm smile and gentle voice calling her, "My love." She didn't want to go back to suffering. She wanted to enjoy the good life, even if it meant forgetting the people who once gave her real love. She didn't ask too many questions about what Osas did for a living either. He always said, "I do real estate," and that was enough for her. Meanwhile, Tunda was left alone. He had to care for their baby by himself. Some days were very hard, feeding the baby, cleaning, and running the small shop, all without help. But Tunde was strong. He loved his daughter and wanted to make a good life for her. Tunde sat quietly by the shop window, watching people pass by. His little daughter, Mira, crawled on the floor beside him. He was learning to use crutches now, though it was still very hard. Each step hurt, but the pain in his heart was worse. Binta had been gone for months. No word, no message, nothing. Sometimes he would fall deep into his thoughts and sighed. "Why, Binta?" he whispered. "Why did you leave us?" That afternoon, as the sun burned gently in the sky, a beautiful woman walked into the shop. She wore a bright Ankara gown and smiled kindly. It was Susan, one of Tunda's old customers from years ago who just returned from overseas to attend a traditional wedding of her best friend. She had always admired Tunda's skill, even back then. "Tundi?" she said softly, looking surprised. "Is it really you?" He turned and smiled weakly. "Susan, wow. It's been a long time." "I came to sew for my best friend's traditional wedding," she said. "But what happened to you?" Tunda told her everything. How he had the accident. How Binta stayed by his side. Until one day she packed a few of her belongings and ran away. How he now cared for their daughter alone. Susan's eyes became watery. "You've been through so much, but I'm proud of you, Tunda. You didn't give up." That day, Susan didn't just place an order. She also stayed to help feed baby Mira, swept the small shop floor, and even helped Tunde move things around. She came back the next day, and the day after. Slowly, she became a friend, a helper, and something more. Tunda smiled more often now. Susan brought light into the dark place Binta left behind. Mira giggled every time Susan came around. Even neighbors started noticing the change in Tunda's face. He was healing. Little did he know, with Susan's help, his life was about to rise again. Susan was kind. She cooked, cleaned, and helped take care of the baby. She loved Mira like her own. Tundai saw how gentle she was, how patient she took care of Mira as if she was her child, when the baby cried at night. Over time, Tundai started recovering fully. He now walked freely without the clutches. He laughed more. His heart, once full of pain, was now full of peace and determination. One afternoon, Susan brought a surprise. "Tundai," she said, smiling. "I sent some of your designs to my friend who works with an international fashion brand." Tundai's eyes widened. "You did what?" "They loved your African designs. They want to work with you." Tundai didn't believe it until the letter came. A big brand from abroad wanted him to design African clothes for them. They said his work was unique, bold, and rich in culture. From that moment, everything changed. Tundai got his own shop in a high-class area. Then he opened another, and another. Soon, he had 120 staff working under him. Cutters, tailors, designers, marketers. People called him the king of African fashion. He was no longer the poor, struggling man Binta had left behind. He wasn't the cripple, as Amina mocked. He now walked tall, with custom-designed shoes and a heart full of confidence. He bought lands and houses. Then he bought 3 cars, clean, shiny, brand new. He made sure his daughter had the best. She started school in a beautiful uniform, smiling every day as she waved goodbye. And a year later, under a bright sky with family and friends around them, Tundai and Susan got married. It was a small wedding, but full of love. Tundai looked at Susan and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." And Susan smiled back, "Thank you for letting me love you." Everything had turned around for good. While Tundai's life was getting better and better, things were going in the opposite direction for Binta and Osas. The police had been watching Osas for some time. They found out that Osas was not the honest man he pretended to be. He was a big scammer, tricking many women online. He promised them love, marriage, and a better life, but all he wanted was their money. Some women became bankrupt. One even committed suicide because of his lies. One morning, a group of police officers came to Osas's big house with serious faces. They told Osas he was under arrest for stealing money from many people. Osas tried to run, but the police caught him quickly. They took his cars, his house, and all his money. Desperate, Binta went to her friend Amina for help. But instead of support, Amina was cold and harsh. "I said enjoy his money, not leave your husband and child," she snapped. "Now this is what you get." With those words, Amina shut the door in Binta's face. Alone and broken, Binta found herself on the streets with nowhere to go. She started selling pure water by the roadside, hoping to earn a little money to survive. But the days were long and hard. Sometimes she hardly makes profits after compensating her supplier, and many times she had no money to buy food. At night, she had no home to return to. She slept under bridges or in dark corners of abandoned buildings. The cold nights pierced her thin clothes, and the loneliness crushed her spirit. The street was dangerous. Strangers often stared. Some tried to take advantage of her, and she had to stay alert just to stay safe. Hunger gnawed at her every day. When she fell ill, she had no money for medicine or doctors. Her feet became sore and swollen from endless walking, and her hands cracked from carrying heavy bags of water. The weight of her fall from a life of comfort to the cold streets was almost too much to bear. Binta missed her daughter more than anything. She had no way to contact her or know if she was safe and cared for. The pain of losing her family, her home, and her dignity was heavy on her heart. She felt invisible, forgotten by those who once surrounded her. She was now a shadow wandering the streets, hungry, cold, scared, and alone, with no family, no friends, no support to turn to. It was just another dusty afternoon. Binta walked slowly along the roadside, her slippers worn out, her gown faded, her eyes tired. She had spent the morning begging for food near the bus park. Her bones ached, her lips were dry, and she had nowhere to sleep again that night. Then, something caught her eye. It was a bright, shiny poster on a wall near the bank. She moved closer and squinted to read it. International Fashion and Business Conference. Special guest Tundai Williams. Her heart skipped a beat. Tundai? She touched the poster with her rough, shaking hand. The man on the poster looked so handsome, so confident. Was this really the same man she once called her husband? I must go, she whispered. I must see him. I will say sorry. He will forgive me. I know he has a big heart, and I'm sure he still loves me. Binta didn't have money to enter the conference hall, so she waited outside the gate. Her stomach rumbled. Her legs were weak, but her mind was strong, full of hope. After 2 hours, she saw him. Tundai stepped out of the building, smiling. His skin glowed. He wore a sharp native outfit, gold wristwatch, and fine leather shoes. But he was not alone. Beside him was a tall, beautiful woman in a rich, elegant gown. Her makeup was light, her smile soft. She was holding his hand and they looked happy. Deeply happy. Someone in the crowd whispered, "That's his wife. She's so gorgeous and classy." Binta's mouth went dry. Her heart broke into tiny pieces. She felt like falling to the ground. The man she once laughed with, the man who she abandoned, the man she had left in a wheelchair with nothing, now looked like a king. Tears filled her eyes as she remembered everything she had lost. Not just a husband, but a home, a daughter, a peaceful life. She remembered how she chased after luxury and ran into the arms of Osas, who only led her to destruction. She remembered Amina's voice, leading her on. "Leave him. You deserve better." Now, she had nothing. Osas was in jail. The wealth was gone. Even Amina had turned her back. Binta was alone. She turned and walked away quickly, hiding her face, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. As she walked through the noisy, dusty streets, her head low, her heart heavy, she whispered, If only I could turn back time. If only I had stayed. If only I had stood by Tundai when he had nothing. If only I had chosen contentment over greed. I could still have my family. I could still have my daughter. I could still have peace. But now it was too late. Tundai had moved on. He had started a new family, one which he would not give up for anything, let alone for her who abandoned him and their little baby for another man. She passed by a group of children laughing and playing with their mother. She stopped and watched them for a moment, her chest aching. That could have been her and her daughter. She sat by the roadside, tears dropping freely. That day, Binta learned one hard truth. Not all that glitters is gold. She had chased shiny things and lost what truly mattered. And the worst part was, some mistakes cannot be reversed. In life, patience is better than pride. True love may not come in fancy clothes or big cars. Sometimes it comes quietly, like Tundai, with kindness, with peace, with loyalty. But when we abandon love for greed, we may end up with regret. An African proverb says, "The hen that abandons her eggs to chase golden pebbles will return to find them broken." Choose wisely. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We love to hear your thoughts and comment below. If you enjoyed this story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.